What's up and welcome back to my channel. I'm Diana, creator of Money Boss Mama, and in this video we are going to be talking about what to do when you feel behind. So I always get a ton of comments from other people who are always saying that they feel like they're behind, especially when it comes to their money goals. And they say things like, I feel like I should have more money saved. I feel like I should have more debt paid off by now. And first I want to say we live in a very highlight reel society, especially when it comes to social media, right? Because that makes up a bulk of our day, whether we want to admit it or not. Social media is like this alternate reality where we can just kind of put out what it is that we want others to assume our life is like. We want to put out the highlights and not necessarily the things that go wrong or what we're struggling with, and rightfully so. But when we see our peers killing it and they seem to have this, amazing life, doing all these amazing things, they're out here just achieving all of their goals. When we tap out of the app, we are left to sit in the discomfort of our current reality. And that's because our current reality outside of that app, it looks nothing like what we just saw, and we start to assume that our life should look like that and we should have achieved those things as well. So how do we stop feeling behind when it comes to our money goals and life in general? First thing is to stop applying someone else's timeline to your life. And this is one that I find that we do unconsciously all the time. And going back to scrolling, we're constantly scrolling through and absorbing other people's wins, and we're going to get to this place where we start comparing what they've done and what they've accomplished to what we've done and what we've accomplished. And so we'll start saying things like, oh, they live in this nice house, meanwhile I'm in this tiny little crappy apartment. Or, oh, she made her first 100K, meanwhile I'm still only at my first 10K. And if you let those thoughts slip by without analyzing them, you're programming yourself to believe that this is the metric that you should use to measure success in your life, especially financial success. And if those things are what you are using to measure financial success, then you're always going to feel behind, right? Because you don't have these things, and you may be, depending on your current financial situation, a ways off from actually attaining these things, because this person has different circumstances that you probably have not yet considered. And also think about it like this: if you define on time, you're on time by applying $3,000 to your debt balances each month, because that's what seems to be like the ooh-ah payment, and that's just what your mind naturally goes to. But realistically, you can only afford to apply $500 to your debt balances. You're probably going to always feel like you're behind, because that's the metric that you're using to define on time. So right now I want you to grab a piece of paper and write down these questions. And after the video, I want you guys to go back and actually take some time to sit down, think about these questions, and write down your answers. So the first one is, how can you make the money that you do have right now enough? And I just want to say, like, if you have enough to cover your expenses in full, I don't care if you have just $10 left over, you have enough, right? It may not be like this excess of $500 to where you can go out and spend your money the way that you want to spend and buy these things that you want, but you have enough to live a comfortable life, as in you have a roof over your head, you have food, and your bills are paid on time. I think that when we tend to position ourselves when it comes to this question of what is enough, then we tend to get our needs and our wants like mixed together. you need to have your expenses paid for to live a comfortable life, right? You don't need to have an excess of $500 to $1,000. You want an excess of $500 to $1,000, but it's not necessary for living a comfortable life right now. Question number 2 is, what have I accomplished so far in this journey? And this is a habit that we tend to have that's really bad, and I'll admit I do this as well. We go straight to what we have not accomplished. We go straight to what we have not achieved yet, what we could have achieved, what we should have achieved, what we would have achieved if maybe we made a different decision, the shoulda, woulda, coulda stage, you know. And that keeps you trapped in the past because those emotions are based on the past. We didn't do it. We should have done it, but we didn't do it. We could have done it, but we didn't do it. This is a new day. We're not going to hold ourselves prisoner to our past decisions. We're moving forward. So what did we do? Let's focus on what we did do, what we did accomplish. And when you take the time to list out everything that you accomplished instead of focusing on what you didn't, then you'll start to realize like, hey, I am making progress that I didn't feel that I was making before. And you start to gain confidence that you can really do this thing. Number 2 is to accept where you are right now as your starting point. Everyone has started somewhere, but this is the part of the journey that we tend to conceal. And I don't know why, but it's kind of embarrassing to start from nothing, to start at 0, and we don't like people seeing us start at 0. We kind of just want to stay quiet and then pop out when we've actually achieved something. So we want to kind of skip over the journey, but everyone has started somewhere. And my thoughts go straight to my Instagram when like I was starting out, and I would look at these other accounts that had thousands of followers, and I'm just like, well, what the hell, you know? I'm embarrassed. I feel like I'm giving people these tips, but who am I to do that? And I didn't really realize, you know, that it was a process for them to get to this point, and what they had just, it felt a lot shinier and a lot better than what I had. But you have to realize that you're in a process, and a process is you taking consistent action to get to your desired result. You cannot skip over the fact that you're in the midst of a process. But I think that when we tend to feel behind, we want to start trying to achieve all of these different things to make up for lost time. And then we get to this place where we have 5 million goals. We're overwhelmed. And it's because we're not accepting where we are in the journey. Where you are right now, your current state is just your circumstance. It doesn't mean anything about you, right? It doesn't mean that you're this terrible, stupid, dumb person. It just means that this is where you are right now. This has nothing to do with your end result. It will look nothing like your end result. And if I am describing you right now, the person with a million financial goals, and you're feeling overwhelmed, let me break it down to you really quickly. So if you have multiple goals you're trying to work on, because you feel behind and people are telling you that you should save, you should invest, you should be paying off debt, you should you've got to set up all these sinking funds. It's like information overload. So you got 50 million things you're trying to do. When it comes to money, if you're trying to put your money in different places, right, then it's going to feel like you're not making progress. And you're going to feel even more behind because your money is being divided up into a million different ways, and your focus is not really narrow. You're just kind of all over the place. So you're not really giving yourself a chance to feel caught up because everything is so divided. And if you continue to do this, instead of accepting the fact that you're in the midst of your starting point, then you're not even giving yourself a fair shot at this. The third thing that I want you guys to do is to find joy in the process. And yes, a financial journey is tough. Sometimes it downright sucks, and you're not always going to feel motivated. But if you find joy in the suffering, then you'll feel more confident to accept your timeline. And I don't mean like, oh, you're just going to be suffering and you should just find joy. I mean like you find something worth suffering for, that's worthwhile to you. And then that something becomes associated with joy and happiness. It becomes worthwhile. And then the suffering just kind of wears off, right? And so you're not suffering at all. You're finding joy and happiness and peace in whatever that process was that was hard, but it was for your greater good. And I find that many of us focus so heavily on the outcome, like what it is we're trying to achieve, whether that's debt freedom, a specific amount in our bank accounts or whatever, so much so that we rely on the outcome for happiness. And that's a dangerous thing to do, to rely on the outcome for your happiness, because things happen, things change every single day. And if you're trying to skip over everything that you're doing and just focus on this end result, you're saying that happiness is somewhere out in the future and it's not with you right now. And so you're trying to rush through things because happiness is over here and we're pushing happiness out. But it's possible to find joy and balance in the process. So instead of focusing on the debt being paid off and this specific amount being in your savings account, focus on what you have control over right now. What can you do right now? What do you have right now? And then it teaches you to be present in the moment and not put everything, like all of your eggs in one basket, as in all, like we're relying on this outcome, and if this outcome doesn't work the way that we envision it, we're in shambles, right? So to help with this, I want you guys to jot down these questions and really take your time when it comes to answering them. And the first one is, what is it that I want to improve on in this journey? What do you want to improve? Do you want to improve your budgeting skills? Do you want to, improve your emotional spending? Do you want to improve your self-worth? What is it that you want to improve on the journey? And then what is it that I want to feel on this journey? What do you want to feel? Not what do you feel right now. What emotions do you want to feel? And I once heard that the quality of our lives is a result of what we feel each day, and not by what we have or what we do, what we feel. So what do you want to feel on this journey? And then be mindful about feeling those emotions. What do you need to do to feel those emotions, to feel happy on this journey, to feel in alignment, to feel balanced, And for me personally, I try to be intentional about being 1% better every single day. So I set an intention, one intention that I commit to focusing on and knocking out of the park every single day. I'm intentional every single day. And to not feel overwhelmed, I just set one intention and I commit to it. And commitment is very scary because it leaves no room for excuses. So even if it's hard, you're like, okay, it's hard, but I'm going to figure it out because I'm committed to it. Whether it's a good day, whether it's a bad day, I'm committed to this. So I want you guys to commit to operating on your own timeline. And that takes a lot of confidence, I know. And hopefully journaling through these questions really helps you all, but there's no reason you should feel behind. If you're feeling behind, then other people have too much influence on what you feel like you should be doing. You have to take back that power and authority over your life in order to feel in alignment. You are exactly where you're supposed to be right now, and you have to accept that. Not just know that, but accept that, and know that as long as you're taking consistent action, you're going to get to where you need to be. You're going to get to where you want to go, and you're going to get there on your own time. So if you're bogged down by multiple goals, take a deep breath, have the confidence to let a few go, and know that today is your starting point and that you're going to get there. But I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video. And if you do these journaling exercises that I gave you, I would love to hear about your results down in the comments. And I will catch you all in the next one.